Good evening once again, everybody, and thank you for coming along to our Year 6 Induction webinar. This is the second time we've had to do this, unfortunately, because of the coronavirus, but this time it's going to be slightly different again because I'm having to isolate at the moment because one of my children is actually had a positive test the other day. This means that I am working from home, if you like, and Miss Kirkwood, who you'll also see, who will be in charge of the induction process, is actually at school. So please bear with us if we do have slight technical hitches or there's a delay between moving the slides on, and also please bear with me if I have to tell my children off for being noisy below the window that I am working in. And if you ever see my third child, you'll see why he'll never go to Banovallum, but that's another story. Anyway, welcome to this evening. I hope that you find it useful. We will be recording this, so if you don't catch everything, or there are issues with your technology, then it will be up on the school's YouTube site, hopefully by tomorrow, all things being equal. And again, if you don't think of any questions just now, or you think of one afterwards, please, by all means, email us at admin@Banovallum School, marking it for the transition programme. So if we can have, in the best traditions of the Prime Minister, the next slide, please. Okay, just again to remind of a couple of points there. Just if you could please mute your microphones. And as I said a minute or two ago, we will be recording this and putting it up on the school's YouTube channel. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what we are going to do is we are going to talk through, I'll have a general little introduction, then Miss Kirkwood will go through the school structures. We will then talk about worries for modern parents, the homeschool partnership and the Q&A session. And if we can go on to the next slide. Thank you. So if you see here, there is a little guide to how you can ask questions. Rather than having the chat, sort of the literal chat function, if you could type any questions in the chat function, which you can see on the menu, which you click on the middle of your screen, and then if you type your questions there, we will then go on and answer those at the end. Okay, all right, so our introduction. Okay, so just a little bit about the school and the setup within the Academy Trust that we belong to. You hear a lot about schools being part of an Academy Trust. We feel that we are quite a unique little setup in as much as that we are primarily serving the Horncastle and district area. So we are members of the Horncastle Trust. We were one of the founders in 2018 of the Horncastle Education Trust, and that comprises of 4 local schools, ourselves, Queen Elizabeth Grammar, Frithville and New York Primaries. We believe, as it says there, that everybody has the right to flourish. And we believe that by being a small local trust, we can tailor that according to the needs and requirements of our community. And all schools are very, very firmly rooted in their community. So I like working in a small trust. I believe it's agile and can respond quickly to the specific demands of the community. And we have done that over the last 18 months or so. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so we thought 2020 was difficult, but 2021 has proven to be just as challenging. A year like no other. Excuse me. We've got fears over the coronavirus. We had the secondary stress of lockdown. we have the stress of homeschooling, and that's something that I am unfortunately having to go through again this week. But these are two very, very difficult challenges that people have faced, and I think particularly the second lockdown, where the weather wasn't as good, the nights were far darker, and it was more difficult to maintain a sort of a good balance, proved very, very challenging. And then, of course, you've got the continued worries over the missing education. Okay, all right, if we could move on, please. So we have another difficult transition. Making the move to the big school is worrying enough. I was able to empathise with parents last year because my daughter was making that transition. And looking at her now at the end of year 7, I'm wondering what I was worried about. I think I was more worried about the process than she was. But nevertheless, it is a worry. It is difficult to move from, particularly in our area, smaller local primary schools into what is seen as quite a big secondary school. Not only that, but we've got the lack of a normal transition programme. What we would have done today is your sons and daughters would have been around the school, would have had an opportunity to meet with their form tutors. You would have come into the school, had a chat with the form tutors, met with myself and Miss Kirkwood face to face, and had general sort of very, very enjoyable, pleasant experience. Sadly, we're having to do this at one remove. So all the leadership team at Banovallum have young families, so we fully understand what you're going through and the stresses and strains that the transition programme is placing on you. But we want this evening to reassure you that we will be really working with you to ensure that your sons and daughters make as smooth a transition as possible. Thank you. Okay, so before I pass on to Miss Kirkwood, I'd just like a couple of things to say that we will be having one day of the Year 7 induction on the 6th of September, in which the Year 7 students will be in school on their own, apart from the Year 11 prefects, who will join the new intake for the day to show them around and assist them. We have really planned for any time the students have missed in year 6, and we've been in contact with the primary schools for further information as part of the programme. We've actually managed for the first time in a while to get out and speak to the primary schools, and that was something that we were absolutely delighted to go and do. I, for one, went to Edward Richardson in Tetford, and it was so nice to get back out and to meet with the students and see them ready to come up and ready to move next year. Looking longer term, and it'll be on you in a flash, we will maintain our commitment to the 3-year Key Stage 4, and we feel that that has minimised the impact on GCSE studies over the last couple of years. So we remain firmly rooted to that as a means of securing the best possible results for our students. And one thing that is not on there, but we will be beginning a testing regime as required by the government when we come back in September, but further details will be sent out along with consent forms in due course. But I'm very pleased to be able to hand over to Mrs Kirkwood, who will be the deputy head at the school from September, and as such has taken over the transition programme. Ms Kirkwood.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. I've had the pleasure of visiting alongside Mr Edgar and also Miss Rye, one of our Year 7 tutoring team, lots of the schools from which your daughters and sons are going to arrive to Banovallum from. It's been a privilege actually to meet them all, to talk to them about what to expect, calm any nerves, talk to them about excitement they've got about the transition, and actually answer some really good questions that they've had. So you know, they've come up with lots, so and I'm sure that parents have them too, and obviously this is the opportunity this evening for us to just offer some reassurance, answer those questions, and hopefully you know, serve to sort of soothe any nerves that you have about the transition. I, as I say, will be taking up the role of deputy head teacher. That includes transition. So it's my job to talk to you this evening about the sort of structures at school and how that works. So our whole pastoral system in school is underpinned by the house system. We have 3 houses, Hurricane, Lancaster and Spitfire, and they are houses in which form groups are organised and also children are organised into houses. The form groups that your children will join will be what we call a vertical tutor group. That means that they will be sharing their tutor group with some students who are from the year above, year 8. Well, that brings a lot of benefits, actually. It can be a little bit daunting when I've been talking to some of the year 6s about that, but actually I've been quick to reassure them that one of the real benefits is that they are the students who to some extent walked in their shoes during this academic year, and they're there to kind of offer advice and offer them support and actually, you know, show them a really shining example of how successful a Banovallum student can be. Above that, the older year groups are also in tutor groups with year 9s and 10s mixed together, and then it's just year 11 students at the moment that are in solo year group tutor groups. That's because they obviously have a particular programme around applications and careers and moving on from their time post 16 from us. So it's important to talk about who can help and support you as parents, but also your daughters and sons that are arriving with us. First point of contact and the best person to get in touch with, especially if you're not sure who to talk to, is your child's form tutor. If I pause for a moment there and just reassure you, we're working hard at the moment to allocate tutors. We're just finishing up our visits out to primary schools. And once that work is done, once we've spoken with year 6 teachers and gathered all that information from schools, we then look to place the students in their tutor groups. Just to reassure, students who are the only student coming from a school will actually be placed in a group together with others who are in the same position, obviously looking to you know, make new friends and form new bonds with students at school. Where we have maybe just 2 or 3 students coming from a primary school, we'll always endeavour to make sure that they will be with someone that they recognise, and students from larger primary schools will be placed with at least somebody from their primary school, somebody they recognise. And we've had all that information through from year 6 teachers, sometimes about, you know, students that are a particularly good mix, sometimes about students that might need, you know, a fair and fresh start away from others or groups of other students, just so that they have the best possible start that they can. So your form tutor, who is the person that the students will spend about sort of 20-25 minutes with each morning, is the best point of contact for you in the first instance. Above that, obviously, sit our house leaders, so our 3 house leaders, and they are there to support the tutoring teams. We also have a team of 4 student support staff. They are all actually non-teachers, so they undertake a lot of, you know, kind of welfare roles, supporting our young people across all of the year groups, and they are a good port of call, if particularly for the students in school, if they need assistance with something or they've got a query, because as I say, they're non-teaching staff, so they are slightly more available than the rest of us, including myself and Mr Edgar, who do also teach lessons as well. We've then got a number of student roles and responsibilities. So prefects, peer mentors, anti-bullying ambassadors, all of those are leadership roles that we offer to some of the older students and in turn to your children to be able to support their peers. And that's really important that they've got that kind of access to help at all different levels within school. Essentially, our tutoring system and the house system really wants to just offer support to the social, emotional, friendship, and also the kind of, you know, mental health and well-being side of their time in school. It's important to just support you in understanding the sort of lines of communications. As we've said, form tutors in the first instance are the best place to go, because they can, you know, kind of deploy queries to subject teachers if they need to, and they can offer support in that way. There are also then heads of house that support the student support team, senior leadership team, and the head teachers. And if you can, we ask you to support us in using that line of communication in that order, please. You'll appreciate that, you know, life in schools, particularly in the past couple of years, has been very dynamic for us all. So making sure that we can respond to you in a timely fashion is always a priority, but there is kind of rise and fall in the working day alongside teaching for a number of us as well. So we will always endeavour to respond within 24 to 48 hours with any queries that come into school. Miss Fry, who is one of the teachers who's been out doing some of the transition visits, pulled together some information really from a Year 7 form tutor's point of view in terms of what form time in the morning looks like. So obviously that check-in in the morning, taking the register, ensuring that pupils are in school and that they are settled and organised for their school day. Check-in uniform, making sure that students are maintaining standards and also that they're well equipped. And that doesn't necessarily mean telling students off if they forget a pen. Very often the tutors will lend a pen or a particular piece of equipment if they've realised that they've made an honest mistake and forgotten to come to school with something. Delivering activities, because there is quite a programme of activities that happens through form time. That could involve activities around literacy, numeracy, and also a form challenge, which I'm sure you'll in time hear more about, that happens on a Friday. Really guiding and advising pupils and supporting parents, dealing with the day-to-day, which at first can feel like a lot for a new Year 7, so really supporting them with everything that they need, and also promoting the house system. I think it's fair to say, I'm sure Mr Edgar would agree, that actually some of the most competitive people in school aren't actually the students. It's very often the teaching staff and the house leaders in particular. So they'll lead that from above, most definitely. Obviously, it's important that we set out our basic expectations. We'll be doing this with tutees and students when they arrive, not necessarily on the first day, but we will have a programme of assemblies and kind of information sharing through a student bulletin that we run in form time. That will help us to kind of build what those basic expectations are. Essentially, they all come back to good manners and respect for everybody. We would like you to understand that sometimes we have to be firm, but we would also always endeavour to be fair with students. We want to be caring, we want to be supportive. We want to have a zero tolerance policy towards bullying. Unfortunately, it does occasionally happen in schools. Any school that claimed that they were bullying free, I think, would be telling a bit of a porcupine. But actually, what we do is we have specific support in place if we know about it, if we know there's a problem. And as I've said, there are a number of ways that students can bring a problem to us, and then we always try and sort out what the issues might be, find a resolution, and move forward positively with students. That's very important. Also, it's important that students and parents understand that conversations about behaviour are actually conversations about learning. We talk a lot about learning behaviour, and I'll come on to a little bit more detail on that as we go along. There are lots of ways in which we will reward students, so as well as sanctions, where we might put something in place if a student hasn't followed our basic expectations. We always want to reward students that do follow those basic expectations and that do well. Our main conduit for doing that actually is this programme called ePraise. So the E stands for electronic praise. And teachers through the course of the learning day will be awarding ePraise points for challenge, for attitude to learning, for social, moral, spiritual and cultural endeavours, for outstanding pieces of work, for remote learning even in these times as well. And it's really important to say that they are rewarding not just for excellence in work, but actually for endeavour with work. We want to recognise that sometimes, you know, a student's achievements aren't all that. Actually their endeavours are really, really important as well. That when they try hard, they are also rewarded. From September, we will also be using ePraise as the place that we will set and record homework tasks, so learning it outside of the classroom tasks for students. Therefore, one of the things that we will do on that very first day is we do an induction with the Year 7s so that they can log on for the first time, they can start to understand where homework will appear and be supported in how to engage with that. Obviously, we appreciate that perhaps not every student will have access to, you know, an online platform from home. So we'll talk to them about the ways that they can access that from within school, using the library and the learning resource centres, as well as the base and other places that we can support that. More than happy if you think there might be an issue with access, that you talked to us earlier about that, and we can obviously put some support in place so that we make sure we can cover those sorts of things at the end of a working week with students, so that they can make sure that they're prepared for their learning. We also send postcards, we give out certificates, and that happens not just at the end of the year, but also at the end of each half term and term. We give subject awards, individual awards, house awards, and Mr Edgar also does a head teacher's award for, you know, exceptional work or exceptional endeavour. We have Insight and ePraise. So ePraise I've mentioned from a student point of view, but parents have access to log into ePraise and Insight. Not immediately, we have to wait until the students are on roll in September, and we will send you the information of how to activate those logins. Insight is the best place to get a sense of the kind of day-to-day behaviour, anything that's logged by teachers in terms of you know, a behaviour or a sanction, that's visible to parents on Insight. And on ePraise, not only can you see the amount of points that the students are building up on their ePraise accounts, but you also get that very powerful view at what homework has been set, just to kind of, you know, stop those conversations in their track when you say on a Friday evening, what do we need to plan for this weekend? What can we support you with? And, you know, a student might say, oh, I've really got nothing to do. It kind of gives you that support as a parent to be able to look at ePraise and sort of understand what their learning week has been like, what tasks might need completing. Okay, but as we say, there's lots of information about those if you want to do a bit of kind of early intel into having a look at what that looks like via the school website. And as I say, logins, etc., those will follow through in September, if not before. Okay, this is what those look like. So those are the icons to look out for. Both of them have an associated app. So it might be of interest to you to kind of get ahead and get those downloaded onto mobile phones or devices so that you're ready to go with a running start in September. Apologies, lights have just switched off in the room. I've clearly sat still for too long. This has been a real hot topic when I've been out doing visits, mainly to do with the canteen, but also what the opportunities are during unstructured time. So if we talk about the canteen first, students have a 25-minute break time mid-morning, and the canteen runs a full hot service at that time. We also have sandwich options, salads, and a variety of cold drinks on offer, and those range from prices starting down at kind of like 50p upwards, depending on what the students are into. So there's lots are available for them. At lunchtime, we kind of supplement that offer by adding a full dinner, like a full hot meal in there. And if you have got students who have either got a medical issue or need to consider diet for religious observance, if you make us aware of that, and there'll be a way to do that, I'll explain later, we can obviously make sure that those needs are catered for. Mrs Beard, who's our catering manager, gets to know the students very well, gets to know their likes and dislikes, but also understands their, you know, dietary needs and caters for them really well, her and the whole team in the canteen. Extracurricular activities, we've got a huge amount of those on offer for students. So that involves sports clubs, netball, football, rugby, all of those kind of things that you would expect and more. Science, arts, textile, so kind of craft-based activities. We also have clubs for sign language. We run a school newspaper, and then for the slightly older students, so this is something to aspire to, we run the Duke of Edinburgh Ski. We start talking to them about that in year 8, and they can sign up for that from year 9 onwards. Lots of opportunities with music. We're just kind of getting back to a point where we're going to start to be able to look at school choir. There was a sign choir and boomwhacker club. You might have to Google that if you're not sure, but that's a particular musical instrument that the year 7s usually get to experience in their kind of first few music lessons, and they take to that one. It's quite noisy, they like it. And then also the Nest, which is run by the special educational needs team and the teaching assistants as a kind of a structured opportunity for students to join if they want some structure in their unstructured time. Some go just to kind of form friendships with the students. Some go because they like a bit of structure around kind of an activity like board games, Lego, things like that. So a place that there is some structure for those students that might need it, and everybody's welcome to that as well. Uniform, obviously we can't show you a shining example. We would stand them at the front of the hall usually and give you the full 360, but we've got some photographs there to assist you. We do ask for your support in making sure that the students look smart and that they are really well turned out. Common issues that we don't have with the younger students, we don't tend to have with the younger students, but we sometimes do run into with older students around school shoes. We do ask for a formal school shoe rather than a trainer. We also appreciate, because we are parents, that when you go to the shoe shops, they very often muddy the waters by trying to sell you a trainer. But if there is any kind of query about that, or if you want to check anything with us, please do feel free to do that. We've also got very broad shoulders. If you're having that debate in a shoe shop and the young person is saying to you, I'm allowed trainers, blame Mrs Kirkwood, you're absolutely not. They need to be a proper school shoe and not a kind of a ballet pump either, please, because you can imagine they're wearing them all day. They're going to do lots of different activities. We need to make sure that they are safe and well moving around the school site. Don't have to be lace ups, Velcro's fine, buckles fine, whichever way they want the shoes to do up, but a school shoe. Moving up from there, it's tights or dark socks, black socks preferably. We don't tend to notice if they're navy or grey, but we definitely notice if they're white, and at that point we would pick the students up on it. Trousers or school skirts, it's very important that school skirts are school skirts, and those are provided through the uniform supplier, and you can't see them on the photo, but they do have a Banovallum logo on. It just means that we avoid skirts that are either too short or too tight. We kind of think about students being presented as they might in a smart workplace. Our school is a smart workplace. Trousers wise, not too fitted or skinny, so what we call a school trouser, that isn't too drain pipey. Again, not issues that we usually run into with the younger students, but sometimes we have to have that debate with older students. Also, it means that we avoid school trouser rips, which can be obviously disruptive to the school day if they are too tight. White shirt with the top button, that needs to be done up because they wear a clip-on tie, and then the blazer. One of the hot topics when I've been out doing transition visits is how many pockets are in a blazer. There's lots of pockets in a blazer, inside, outside, secret pockets inside, all sorts. So they'll be very excited, I'm sure, when they get hold of those to explore them once they get to try everything on. Our advice would be try everything on, have a little dry run, make sure they know what they're wearing and how to wear it. And most importantly, please do name, label absolutely everything. I'm sure you won't be surprised, because I'm sure you've lost things at primary school, but you won't be surprised that in those first couple of weeks, that's one of the things that form tutors and we're supporting with a lot, is getting items of clothing back to the right children. So if you can name them, initials is fine, names is better, because it just saves us having to do the kind of joining up the dots. It just supports us in keeping them smart and neat and tidy through the day. Okay. A brief moment then just to have a look at academic progress and for you to start to understand how we assign students what we call their flight path. So we use data to support us assigning students onto a flight path. We have 5 flight paths: entry level, foundation, intermediate, higher and advanced. And we use data, but also teacher assessment to assign those. We don't assign them before the students arrive. That's not an activity we'll be doing over the summer. What we do is we want to meet your students. We want to teach the students. We want to, yes, do some baseline assessments, but then look at assigning them into an appropriate flight path. Those are reviewed very often during each academic year, at least at 3 points. They're also, it's very important to say, they're not a kind of a glass ceiling, they're not fixed. Students can be moved if they are achieving above what we thought might have been expected. We can reassign a flight path and we can adjust those accordingly. So it's very important that just like we look at GCSE and BTEC grades and we want students to be aspirational about how well they can do, it's exactly the same with flight paths. We want them to, you know, aspire to do well. And, you know, the best thing that a student can do actually is, you know, be reassigned a higher flight path, because that shows that they're working above and beyond. So yeah, as I say, constantly reviewed through the year. You will receive notification about their flight paths and also interims through the year telling you how they're doing in relation to that flight path, whether they're on, above or below that flight path target. There's more information about flight paths and what that looks like in terms of real learning in each subject on the school website, so you can take a look at that for a bit of further understanding. You'll also receive during the academic year details about how they do in exams, although I'm very pleased if there are any year sixes sitting with you listening to let you know that actually we are kind enough that the sort of final exams for year 7, as they will be in September, happen in July, right at the end of the academic year. So plenty of time for learning, plenty of time for sort of developing that expertise before we actually sit them down and do their testing. Okay, as important as talking about flight paths and that kind of academic achievement is a discussion about their student attitude. And you'll hear us talk a lot about attitude to learning. In fact, the students will become very well versed in conversations about attitude towards learning. You know, you've heard the saying before, attitude is everything, and you know, we couldn't kind of stress that enough. We have a 4-point scale for attitude to learning, 4 being at the top, down to 1 at the bottom. What we say is that if we had a school full of students with an ATL, an attitude to learning, of 3, we could run the school very well and our students would achieve. So it's very important to understand that a 3 has a lot of aspiration in it. Don't just expect that, you know, your student needs to be working harder and working harder and working harder for an attitude to learning score of 4, because actually, you know, that is potentially kind of, you know, working above and beyond. And whilst they might achieve that in some of their subjects, it's very unusual to see attitude to learning scores of 4 across the board. Okay, so 3s and 4s we can absolutely work with. If a student slips down into an attitude to learning score of 2, it's likely that their commitment is not where it needs to be for them to be achieving, but also for them to be allowing other students within their classes to achieve. And at this point, we would be looking at things like an intervention. That student might be removed from that lesson to have a discussion about why that is, to have a reset of buttons, and actually to allow the teacher to get on and deliver the expertise that is needed within the classroom. An attitude to learning score of 1 is very unusual. You know, that would be a student who was, you know, exceptionally challenging and disruptive, and it's certainly not something that we have a great many conversations about at school, just to reassure you. It wouldn't just be a conversation with one class teacher if a student was displaying attitude to learning of 1. It would be a much wider conversation that we were having. Okay, so Mr Edgar has mentioned that transition day 1, that's the 6th of September, will be just for year 7, supported by our year 11 prefects. They will do 3 or 4 lessons depending on how much time we feel we need for their orientation in the morning. They'll come in, they'll meet their tutor, they'll get settled. and we will cover all the kind of important things like induction around the use of e-praise, so that they start to understand about the sort of systems that they're going to be using in school. Lots of students have asked me actually when I've been out on transition visits, how will I know where to go when I arrive? And that's an easy one to answer. Come rain or shine, because some years we've done it in blazing sunlight, some years we've done it out with umbrellas. Pretty much the whole staff will be out to meet and greet on that first morning, out on the area at the front of the school that we call the planters. That's where the school buses drop. There'll be some staff up at the gate as the students walk onto the site, saying good morning, reminding them to smile, to breathe, to relax, and welcoming them on the start of their journey as a Banovallum student. We'll then show them to the main school hall, and it'll be from there that we inform them about their tutors and their tutor groups, and they'll go and do their kind of various bits of orientation before they pick up the learning. Things like timetables will also be issued at that point. They'll have a paper copy of their timetable, as well as being shown how they can access their timetable through ePraise. But it's important for them to get in lessons on that first day. It's important for them to come and start meeting subject experts, particularly in subjects. Lots of them have spoken to me about being really excited about their learning and really kind of keen to get going, particularly in favourite topics, favourite subjects, etc. So we want to get them working hard that very first day and send them home happy but exhausted at the end of it. That's really important. In the autumn term, at some point, we'll do school photographs. We're waiting on the finer details around testing, just to kind of decide on the absolute best time. But we usually send a message out so that you can remind them to brush their hair at least twice that morning, so they can avoid any kind of, anything too gruesome on their school photo. In October, we'll invite you in for a Year 7 sort of settling in evening. So you'll get to meet their form tutor, you'll get to discuss their attitude to learning in their subjects. We may not have a huge amount to talk to you in terms of progress, because we'll only be, for some subjects, maybe 5 or 6 lessons in, but we will be talking to you about the attitude that they've been displaying and those kind of early signs about commitment to their learning and how well they're going to do. We'll have a full parents progress evening in May time, and we'll also be sending you progress reports, as we said, ATL only in the first instance in October, and then full progress with in relation to how they're doing with their flight paths in February, May and July. And as I mentioned before, we're nice and we'll wait until the end of their year's learning in each of their specialist subjects to actually do their examination, their testing in there. But it is worth saying that we do start in Year 7 as we mean to go on with exams. Exams are a reality of what students have to do at secondary school. So we do them using our exam invigilators, the same invigilators that work with our older students, our Year 11s, so that actually they start to relax around exams, because obviously if they're relaxed, they can start to do really well. And that's obviously the ambition that we have for all of the young people. Okay, I'm going to hand back now, I think, to Mr Edgar, who's going to talk to you about the learning support team.
Yes, as Mrs Kirkwood was saying there, just wanted to say that, as with everything at the moment, those dates may well change depending on what the situation is with the pandemic. We've had to sort of adapt and move forward quickly this year, but hopefully we'll be able to meet up face to face from September, which I think everybody is looking forward to. Okay, I'm going to talk very briefly about learning support. So if we could move the slide on, please, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, we have, quite rightly, an excellent reputation throughout the county for our learning support department. It is really quite successful in securing incredible progress across the range from social and emotional through to academic. So as you can see there, we've got a very specialist team. We run core intervention lessons, which are sort of literacy and numeracy based for students that are a little bit behind on coming into the school. We have a sensory education specialist for hearing and visual support, and this is including increasingly opportunities for sign language and Makaton. And in fact, we actually hope at some point to be able to offer the GCSE in sign language. And additionally, we have an accessible site with automatic doors throughout most of the school and a fully fitted hygiene suite. Okay, thank you. As I said there, we have the numeracy and literacy support. We have the social inclusion club, the Nest. Not everybody copes with the transition or copes with the sort of rough and tumble of moving to big school, and so we offer an opportunity for quite semi-structured play and social activities with the Nest. And not only that, we have full support for social, emotional and mental health through the various programs that we run there, including ELSA peers on friendships and coping with that, Lego therapy, which I'm sure every parent is going, blimey, what's that about? But in actual fact, what it's very good for are the motor skills, team building, socializing, and working with different groups of individuals. So we offer a wide range of activities there for students that may struggle on a day-to-day basis. But the transition in the vast majority of these students, by the time they get to year 10 and 11, is really quite touching and really quite incredible at how they move from being shy and nervous to being confident and eloquent young people, and it's a pleasure to see them develop over the 5 years that they're at Banovallum. Okay, thank you. Right. I'd love to claim that this was a statement by a world-renowned educationalist, but in actual fact, it's me. I'm very, very pleased that I'm not a teenager now, but the prospect of being a modern teenager scares the life out of me. I am at the start of the teenage years with my children. Mrs. Kirkwood is coming through and is nearly at the end of the teenage years with her sons. And I'll be honest with you, I've been doing this job for close on 30 years, and I still get nervous over discussions and conversations that we need to have with our sons and daughters. There are a whole lot of challenges out there that we never faced when we were young. There are a whole lot of challenges that they face as they are developing and as they are growing, and sometimes they make the wrong choice, sometimes they make mistakes, but we want to be able to help and assist both your daughters and sons, but also yourselves. And what we're hoping with our new relationships and sex education curriculum is to be able to educate them. Key to that will be looking to support you as parents. And Mrs. Kirkwood is going to come back in now and talk through that. Thank you.
Yes, it's interesting to think that we've had to negotiate our way through it as parents, but also it's interesting to think that actually when most teachers joined the profession, it wasn't something that we discussed, kind of use of social media, mobile phones in schools. It wouldn't have been a topic for discussion 16 years ago when I came into the profession. It definitely wasn't. I was just about learning to, as an adult, to use a mobile phone, but I don't think many teenagers had them at the time either. It's really important, I think, to contextualize the fact that as well as them having obvious drawbacks and negatives, sort of social media and communication with mobile phones can also be a really positive thing for young people. If we reflect on the kind of couple of years that they've experienced, and I'm thinking about teenagers, of all the year groups that we deal with, so 11 to 16, they've been a bit of a lifeline, actually. They've been a way of keeping in touch for young people. There are times that they kind of engage with project work or ideas through their devices. So I don't want to give the impression that we've only got bad things to say about it, and that we only want young people to be, super cautious, because the answer isn't that they don't use them. The answer is that we are supportive in, having them understand how to use them appropriately, where and when, and also how to remain safe. Social media is a really interesting one. We've often tried to look at issues that we've had to resolve as a student support team and tried to extract information about, you know, how many of them had muddied waters because there was a social media element. And actually, very often it is the case that problems are exacerbated through, impulsive use of social media. So it is really important to really emphasize the fact that, you know, as parents and teachers, we want young people to use all of the kind of resource that's available to them at the right time, and that we want them to use it responsibly, and we want to keep them informed about how to do that. When they're using devices in school, computers, laptops and things like that, we obviously have quite a bit of structure in place to keep them safe, and that includes online filtering and also notification if they are trying to access content that would concern, or if they type something even into a Word document that is of concern, that's picked up and it's dealt with very quickly, and obviously from that we look if there are some support or some re-education that we need to put in place for the young people. I think sometimes young people are very surprised to find that actually life, particularly Snapchat, actually that's the main one, where they think they can kind of post and move on straight away because things don't exist for very long. There's no record of them, but actually even Snapchat as an app that young people use store posts, and information that they post can be recalled for a period of up to about 9 months there as well. These are the legal ages for social media. And interestingly, I know that there may be some of your youngsters that already are engaging on those platforms, and it might be that you've put a kind of structure in place for them to do that in a safe way. And we can do very little to stop a young person who is younger than the legal age using it, but we would always endeavour to kind of inform them about how to remain safe using any of these platforms. They go through fashions. Some of them are more relevant than others, probably young people would tell you. I know that Mr Edgar loves his Twitter, but you don't find too many youngsters on there. I think I've got away with that because we're in different postcodes. It might be WhatsApp, it might be Facebook, it might be Snapchat, it might be Instagram. It actually might be the next app that's not up there, because as we know, these things are constantly kind of evolving and being developed as well. So we have to keep abreast of that, and we have to kind of remain informed. And there are a number of ways as an organisation that we do that. As parents, these links, and remember that this presentation will be available through the website as well as through the YouTube channel if you need to make note of these websites. But these are really useful, powerful websites that I have accessed as a teacher, but I've also accessed as a parent, to sort of help those of us who are of a different generation really start to understand how to support young people to safely negotiate their way round kind of online and mobile communication. So there's lots that you can find out about, but also things like gaming platforms, understanding about PEGI advice around what age should my child be accessing a particular game, what age should my child be watching a particular film, even just to kind of support us to keep informed and support young people. We send lots of information out if we have an update. As we say, this is a landscape that's changing all the time. Things are constantly being developed, tweaked. Students might know about things online before we do, but as soon as we find out if we have an update for you, particularly in relation to kind of trends that maybe are going around, particularly way that students are maybe communicating in an unkind way, or in a way that we would view as kind of detrimental to their sort of well-being, we'll communicate that out via Twitter, or we'll make communication via email to you to keep you up to date so that you can kind of monitor use in that way. We'll also be providing at some of the parents and progress evenings that you come into more information about that. We've also got kind of a fully embedded within the curriculum programme through tutor time assembly, religious education, and drama lessons, you know, a programme of support for young people. And we also have from September an overhauled curriculum on relationships and sexual education that we'll be delivering. And actually, you'll be pleased to hear that that is very up-to-date content in terms of understanding young people's use of social media and technology, and really kind of supporting us as teachers to support them to make the right decisions around what they're posting and what they are doing. Okay, I'm going to hand back to Mr Edgar to talk to you about homeschool partnership.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Mrs Kirkwood. Right, the homeschool partnership, this is the crucial partnership between all three parties there, and you can see the diagram that we've got. It really is key. We've got the student, parents and teachers, and it is crucial that we work together. Everything that the staff at Banovallum do, and I include every member of staff on that, is designed to achieve the very best for the students, and as such it is crucial that we work together to ensure that your daughter or your son does the absolute best at whatever they choose to do throughout the school, their school career. We want to work closely with you. We will seek to develop strong relationships with you, and we will achieve that through the face-to-face contact. One thing that ePraise enables us to do as well is to quickly message parents and students about any sort of issues which are arising. So, for example, during lockdown, when things were changing quite quickly, I was able to message parents virtually within real time to let them know what was going on. So this is crucial, and if any part of this doesn't work, then things start to go wrong. So it really is quite a difficult balancing act to strike. And you know, we, as I said earlier, we really do work very, very closely with parents and the students to ensure that they secure the best possible outcomes. On occasion, you might not like what we're saying, but please, it is done with the best of intentions to ensure that your child achieves. So what will we do? Well, we will work hard to get to know your child and get the best from them. It might, on first instance, look like quite a large school, but in actual fact, it's quite small for a secondary school. I like being the head of a small school because hopefully very quickly I will be able to have a conversation with most of the students throughout the time here. We want you to encourage positive attitudes and participation in and out of the curriculum. We will ensure lessons are planned for progress and challenge, ensure you've got lines of communication with school, and we will keep you informed. We'll set relevant and meaningful home study, and by the end of their time at this school, we hope that they will have developed independence and resilience. I think over the past year, 18 months, the children have really developed quite strong resilience. They've had to deal with something that hasn't happened in this country for 100 years. And for the most part, they have done that extremely well. There will be gaps, but I honestly believe that the programme of study at Banovallum will help your daughters and your sons catch up and ensure that they will meet the challenges for the new normal, whatever that means, in the next 5 to 10 years. We want them to be independent and resilient. So, thank you. Can you assist us by supporting the school with uniform standards, home learning and attendance? And I'll come on to attendance specifically later on. I am very competitive, and although I sometimes write checks that the body can't cash, I want us to be the best in the local area. I want us to be the best in Lincolnshire. I it's a very easy sell for me when I am talking about Banovallum. I am very, very proud of the school. And what I am very, very proud of indeed is the fact that people always comment on how smart the students look. And that is important. That's an important life skill, because when they go out to interview at 16, 17, and that time will come around very, very quickly indeed, I want them to know the codes for interviews, because unfortunately for them, it's guys of my generation that are doing the interviews. And I want them to be smart. I want them to go out and get that job, because I know that if they've come from Banovallum, they have got every chance of doing that job very well. Can you support us with home learning? As I said, or as Ms Kirkwood said earlier on, the e-praise doesn't give them any wriggle room, really. You will know what homework they've got. Can you please read the information that we send out from school and respond as appropriate? Now, over the last year or so, there's been quite a lot of information that's come out, and particularly with regards to the information as to how the school was going to be operating in light of COVID. Today's announcements have suggested that things might open up a little bit, but as quickly as they open up, they can close down. So please, I will send out fairly comprehensive information for you to look at and understand, so that you know you've got as much information and feel as confident in the school providing a safe space for your sons and daughters. Can you encourage that positive attitude, participation in and out of the lessons? Now, by that, I mean sort of saying, yeah, come on, it is difficult, but let's give it a go. Let's not give up, and let's be careful about the language that you use. My dad always said, "Oh, don't worry, son. I wasn't very good at maths either." And what that did was it gave me a get out. It gave me a way of not doing as well as I might have done in maths. So think carefully about the language that you use. Okay, as I said, let them develop independence and resilience. After the first week or so, make them responsible for packing their bag. Make them responsible for bringing their PE kit, getting their PE kit sorted out, and so on. If they forget their PE kit, if they forget their homework, sometimes they just have to take a sanction on the chin. And most students will learn not to do that again. So please, and I know it's difficult, and we've got into the habit of doing that perhaps at primary school, but if they've got to learn, and they need to be responsible for their equipment, their learning to some extent. So please allow them to develop that independence. If you have an issue, please communicate directly with the school. Please don't indulge in any social media, because I guarantee that will go to the bottom of a very long to-do list. I am more than happy to engage with parents and talk with parents over issues with regards to the school, as are the rest of the senior team and the tutors. But please do not put anything on social media, because, well, one, I never really look at it, and two, it's not fair, it's not appropriate. So, but please do talk to us on that. Thank you. Okay, as I said, how can you help? Talk positively about school. It's a different environment from when I was at school. Vastly different. I mean, I went to quite an interesting school, shall we say, in just south of Glasgow. But yeah, the schools nowadays are far different places than they were even a generation ago. Can you encourage reading for pleasure and help them to develop a wide vocabulary? Reading is the key, and get them reading books for pleasure, and they can move on if initially it's about football. So both my boys have read that series of biographies about world-renowned footballers. That leads them on to other books as well. As I said earlier, I'm quoting my dad, don't give them a get out, however well-intentioned. That is, don't say, oh, I wasn't very good at maths. Right, let's say, okay, how can we solve this? How can we get this problem sorted out. Have high but reasonable expectations. Help us to develop positive attitudes towards learning and a strong work ethic, and encourage a positive mindset. So, what do we ask of the students? Well, we really just want them, as the strap line is there, to aim high, aspire to be the best that they possibly can, and they will go on and achieve. I want them to have pride and respect. So pride in their appearance, pride in the school, pride in the work that they do. And I want them to respect themselves, other people, and the environment. Now, I really only ask of 3 things. And these are the same 3 things that I ask of my own children. I want them to work hard. I want them to be polite. And I want them to try their best in everything that they do. And it kind of summed up there with that another little strap line, and another favourite of mine, to be the best that you can be. If you work hard, if you are polite and you try your best in everything that you do, everything else falls into place and we will get on really well. And it will make your time at Banovallum very, very easy indeed. I mentioned earlier that attendance is crucial. It's interesting, excuse me, any other area and 90% would be quite a good score. If you were employing somebody and they had 90% attendance, that would be 1 day off a fortnight, and pretty soon you'd be asking questions. Our target, even allowing for the pandemic, is going to be 96%. As I said there, 90% equals 1 day a fortnight and equals 4 weeks off school per year. If you drop down to 80% attendance, then that totals 1 year missed by the end of year 11. Okay, so just think of the impact that that has. And it's our standard position not to authorise holidays during term time, I'm afraid. So attendance really is crucial, and we've got some interesting statistics applied to last year, or 2 years ago, sorry, the exam cohort and their performance. If you add your attendance of sort of around about 95, 96%, then your progress was almost a grade above target. If you were less than 90%, then it dropped to almost 1.5 grades below target. So there's a 2.5 grade swing there. So yes, that attendance does have a big impact. And I mentioned earlier about this sort of positive mindset, and you know, sometimes we do things and we say, oh well, I can't do it. Right, okay, but that's not an opportunity to give up. And I want you to change that to I can't do it yet. I want you to really give it a go as a student and try things. Okay, and that's what I want us to be doing. Okay, so we've got a few things that we need you to be doing as parents for September. So if you can prepare for September, once the links arrive, we've got the student information form. We'll ask you to sign up to Parent Pay, where you can where you pay for meals and school trips, etc., etc., and activate your ePraise login. If you could also familiarise yourself with the parent section of the website, which we'll be updating shortly as well, then that would be fantastic as well. All right, now just having a look there. If anybody has got any questions, I'm conscious that we've talked for a while, and it's not the usual sort of interactions that we might have with a face-to-face presentation, but I hope that we have answered all your questions there. There is one question, and I think that's from a prospective student, or at least I hope it is. Are my parents allowed to help me with my homework? Absolutely, they are allowed to help. I've been helping this morning with various aspects of homework, so that's not a problem. What we would ask is that they don't do the homework. Support is brilliant and it helps you, even if you're sitting doing a maths question and you say, well, they didn't do it like this in my day. So what we have is, particularly for maths, is something called Hegarty Maths that has videos to show parents how they do maths nowadays. That was a lifesaver for staff at the school homeschooling the children over lockdown. Right. Are siblings in the same house group? We endeavour. Ms. Kirkwood?
Yeah, sometimes is the answer. It's one of the things that we do consider when we place them in form groups, but it isn't one of the things at the top of the list. We often consider information that's come from the primary school, how many students are making transition from the primary school, and other instances. And actually, in our experience, sometimes they actually quite like it when they're in a different house. It can build a little bit of I suppose at-home competition between things as well. So it's a possibility, but I can't guarantee it, and that's based on the fact that we do have other priorities that are relating to sort of like academic progress, but also kind of that student well-being that kind of take a bit of precedent with it.
Right. Okay. Well, it looks as though there are no further questions. Right. Okay. So hopefully we have answered all your questions. As I said, if you have got any other queries that you haven't thought of, can you send them via the email address at the bottom of the last slide and put transition. Then if you could email them to admin@banovallumschool.co.uk and we will endeavour to answer those. Okay. Thank you very much indeed for your time. I appreciate that's been an hour of sitting listening to us, but I really hope that we've answered all your questions, and if you have any other ones, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us. There'll be more information coming out over the course of the next few weeks and during the summer, so please check your emails that we have, and I hope that you can have a lovely break. I hope that your children are able to take part in their celebrations of the time in Year 6, and I look forward to seeing them shiny, bright and enthusiastic in September. Have a lovely evening and a great holiday, and thank you very much for your time and your patience this evening. Thank you.